Like I said, it's a pretty rustic soup. There's very simple ingredients. There's no cleverness to this at all. It's basically a piece of chicken, some onions, some carrots and celery, and some seasoning and a couple of stock cubes. And that's basically how you make chicken soup. I know that there's all sorts of, oh, it must be really difficult to make, but really, honestly, this is it. So all I'm going to do now is chop up the celery into small pieces, take the skin off the onions, take the cling film off the chicken, open up the stock cubes and peel the carrots, and then I'll show you how to cook. And well, how to cut, what sort of bits they need to be cut up into, and then I'm basically just going to chuck them into a pan. So here we go. Because this really is based at beginners, everybody has their own way of peeling carrots. I mean, do you really need to be shown how to peel a carrot? But I think the secret is having a really good peeler, and just do it at whatever speed you like, however you want. The thing I like about this particular peeler is that you get it takes very, very thin slices off, so you don't lose very much of the vegetable that you're peeling. And also you can do it away from you, which I think is safer than those things where you actually have to kind of like draw it towards you, but that's just personal preference really. I don't really care. It's just nice to peel a carrot. It's not a big deal. This, I find, is just so much easier than using a knife or using one of those sort of D-shaped peelers. It's just easy. It's just really, really easy. Okay, so I've got a couple of peeled carrots. I'm now going to chop up the onions. One of the things that I love having in the kitchen is a really, really sharp knife. This is a really, really sharp knife. So you have to be very careful. But what it does mean is that, for example, if you're just chopping off the bits of an onion, you really, I mean, the knife pretty much does all the work for you. One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of people kind of saw away and they kind of push hard down, and you shouldn't have to. If the knife is sharp, it'll be fine. You just go for it. Peeling the onion, if you can just get the outside off without taking the next layer off, great. But honestly, it's there for flavour, it's not there to look good. So if you happen to take some of the next layer of onion off with you, then that's absolutely fine too. This is a very dull process, so I'll speed this up a bit, probably, in the edit, and then we'll have a couple of nicely peeled onions. So what else can I tell you about onions while I'm doing this? The size of onion doesn't really matter. If you have about this much mass of onion, that's a good thing for the amount of chicken soup that I'm making. I'm making enough for about 6 people, or one really good long cold, or maybe half of a flu. So just enjoy yourself and make as much or as little as you want. But I find if you add too much chicken, then you get there's a bit of fat comes off the chicken when you're actually cooking it. So you can get that nice sort of film of fat on the top of the soup, which some people like. I'm quite happy with the film of fat on the top, but some people prefer it to be much more healthy looking, I guess is the best way of describing it. So yeah, so we're basically nearly there with the onions. There we go. So we've got carrots, we've got onions. We will now do the celery. Celery is really easy. Because this is quite a big celery, I know I'm chucking away quite a bit here, but don't worry about that. I'm going to do it in two, I'm going to make it a celery of 2 halves, because actually the bottom half of this is, I think, a bit wide, because you'd never get that in your mouth on a soup spoon. So I might even go a bit smaller than that. So I'm probably going to go down to about that size, and then just cut. If you don't know how to do this, then do it really slow, just hold and just cut like that. But I've seen chefs do it like this. The only trick you have to do is keep your fingers tucked away underneath, otherwise you will lose fingers. It's not fun. Or certainly lose a bit of one or an edge of one. Again, none of which is especially exciting or fun. I'm sure there's going to be professional chefs on here who tell me that I'm doing this all wrong, but frankly, I don't care. Next thing I think I'm going to do is get out the pressure cooker so I've got somewhere to put all this stuff, because I'm about to start slicing carrots as well. Got a nice heavy pressure cooker here. It's pretty good actually. I'm very happy with this one. It's Swiss. I've used a Prestige for years, which was lovely, and I've used a Tower, which is also lovely. But basically, if you're not sure about how to use a pressure cooker, then again, this video hopefully will help you to learn how to use a pressure cooker as well as how to make soup. So that would be a good thing. I just got that out of the way so you can see me chopping this lot up. So this is almost like one of those things where you kind of watch motorsport just in case somebody kills themselves. It's sort of like watching an amateur chop vegetables in the hope that they will draw blood of some sort, but so far so good. And obviously I've washed my hands before doing any of this, which I shouldn't really have to tell you, but there you go. So again, the carrot's quite thick, so probably going to cut that in quarters as well, although halves is probably enough on this one. So yeah, so about sort of the thickness of a pound coin, or just a little bit thicker. You just want to make it a little bit chunky, but not outrageously rustic, as some pretentious buggers would call it. This is the first time I've ever made one of these sorts of TV shows or videos, so please excuse me if I'm rabbiting on or rattling on, because I don't really know what I'm supposed to be saying. I'm just making it up as I go along. But then that's how I learned to cook as well. One of the reasons that I learned to cook, and I know my mother doesn't have YouTube, so I'm safe here, is that my mother was a terrible cook. And when I left home, I had to learn from scratch how to cook for myself. So as part of that, I basically made lots of mistakes. I still make mistakes actually. There are still times when I'm cooking and I end up with something. I think I'll go out and get a pizza, or I think I'll just chuck on some pasta and throw some tomato sauce in there, because ultimately cooking isn't, I mean, baking I think is an exact science, and you have to do everything exactly and get the quantities exactly right, but cooking is different. Cooking is an art and baking is a science, I think. And I like baking. To be fair, I can only actually make one cake, although I'm hopefully going to be making, oh actually that's a thought, I'm supposed to be making a lemon drizzle cake today for my girlfriend's flat warming, which I've completely forgotten to do. But anyway, not to worry about that. So let's just be green about this whole thing and stick the detritus into the recycling. What have we got left? So what we've got in there is carrots, celery, onions. This is really, I don't know of a simpler soup to make. A couple of stock cubes. And then the pièce de résistance, the chicken. There we go, piece of chicken. All in there. Again, just go to the slot. So the next thing we're going to do is add some water. Normally I just run this under the tap, but actually I will. So there you go. I've filled it up to about just over halfway. And now I'm just going to put this onto the heat. There we go. That's the chicken soup on the heat. Now I'll just, excuse me, take that away, make it look neater. That's left over from the fry-up I had for breakfast. Please excuse me. We'll just leave that to come to pressure. Now basically what you do with the pressure cooker is put it on the heat, and then there's this thing here which is a thing that shows you the amount of pressure that's inside the pressure cooker. Sorry, I'll just show you that again a bit more close up. There you go. So this thing here, obviously don't do this when it's hot, but that will rise up. What happens is the piece will seal, and then it'll build up pressure. What pressure cooking actually does is, you know, people say if you're at the top of a mountain, you can boil a kettle at a significantly lower temperature than you can when you're at the bottom of the mountain. Well, that's because the pressure at the top of the mountain is much lower than it is at the bottom of the mountain. So if you theoretically were to boil water underwater, it would be much harder to boil it because the pressure is greater. So what this does is it actually boils and cooks at much higher temperatures. Sort of water in this case will boil at about 115 degrees centigrade. So it's actually putting a lot more heat into something, cooks much faster, and makes things happen much better. It also keeps the flavours in much more nicely, I think. People are also worried about pressure cookers, and one of the things that you should know about pressure cookers is there's a lot of fail-safes in pressure cookers. I don't know if this is still cold enough. Probably yes. So if you look here, there's actually a valve here which is designed to melt at certain temperatures, so that if things do go wrong, this will actually just melt and fall in and release the pressure. There's also something in the lid of this thing, which in most pressure cookers as well, which is an area which is designed specifically to be weaker, so that it actually will melt and give way before anything dangerous happens to the pressure cooker. So all of these stories of pressure cookers exploding and covering the ceiling with stuff is not something you should worry about. That's it for pressure cooking, really. Pressure cookers also come with recipe books, so feel free to use the recipe books, and that's it for now. Okay, so you can see here that this thing here is not risen yet. It's just that things have to come to the boil first. What will happen is you'll hear a loud hissing noise, and once that loud hissing starts, that'll then seal, and then the pressure will then start to rise inside the pressure cooker. Hopefully we'll catch that on video, and then you can see how that works. Okay, so we're getting close to the point at which a lot of people find pressure cooking the most scary, which is when the pressure starts to escape through the valve. Honestly, it's just a noise. Just relax, it's all fine. Stay calm, it'll be fine, and relax. Let's go in a bit tighter so you can see what happens when the pressure gets up to full pressure. There you go. Do you see that little thing just pop up there? That's the pressure starting to build up inside. And you'll see that continue to rise as the temperature continues to rise. What I might do after this is to take you through the ins and outs of component parts of a pressure cooker. There are very few. There's basically the lid, the seal, and the pressure valve, and that's kind of it. Oh, and obviously, and the actual cooker, the base itself, the pot. But we'll take it from there. As you can hear, it's quite an aggressive noise, the steam coming off the pressure cooker. It's quite harsh. But once you get used to it, you realise that it's harmless, and it's just making sure that everything's delicious and cooked. I can tell you now that the smell that's coming out of this pot is absolutely fantastic. It smells scrummy and it's making my mouth water. So now what you can hear is that the hissing has stopped and that it's starting to build pressure. And you can see the first of the little red rings coming up there. You can see it's much quieter now. As soon as we see the second ring, we're going to turn the heat down to the absolute minimum, just enough to keep it simmering away, because what that'll do is it'll maintain the pressure and save energy, which is another great reason why pressure cookers are a good idea. There we go, there's that second ring. So let's turn the light right down. There we go. And that'll just bubble away for about 40 minutes. See you then. So it's now been 40 minutes since the cooker got up to pressure, and that's about it. It's smelling lovely. So I'm just going to turn off the gas. And there are two ways that you can depressurize a pressure cooker. First way is really easy. You just leave it, and eventually the pressure will drop within the pressure cooker and the valve will drop down, and that's it, done. But there's a second way if you're in a bit of a hurry, and I'll show you what that way is now. It does involve water and a sink, so let's move over to the sink. So this is pretty straightforward. All we're going to do is take the pressure cooker from the hob, stick it in the sink, and again, if you wanted to, you could just leave it in the sink, because the sink is cold, and what we want to do is reduce the temperature of what's inside the pressure cooker so that the pressure inside the cooker drops. But you can even do it another way, which is just use a little bit of cold water just running slowly over the sides of the pressure cooker, and if you notice the valve will start to drop. So if we're in a hurry for our soup, we can just pop it in the sink, run some cold water over the outside of the pressure cooker. Don't worry about the metal being under stress because of the different temperatures. It's designed to do this. So just relax and wait till it drops. In fact, when it does drop, I can start to show you the pieces of the pressure cooker, which I referred to earlier as the bits that are there for safety. Yeah, so you can see that's dropping quite nicely now. You'll hear a sort of like a fss when it actually drops all the way. There you go, it just dropped. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to open, while there's no pressure in this, I'm going to open it up to that point there, and then turn the water off. And there you go, there's your soup. It looks a bit weird at the moment, but if you get a spoon and stir it around, it's perfectly good. And I can tell you now that it smells absolutely fantastic. There you go, Jewish chicken soup, penicillin in a bowl. Yeah, so I was going to talk to you quickly about pressure cookers and what the valves are. So the middle one there is the valve that deals with the pressure, and this little thing here is a safety device. So that if the worst case happens, that just falls in, and all the pressure is released. So you never get any exploding pressure cookers like you see on TV.